Don't we start people and keep cool people? Show you got heart. Now we're playing the game and we're totally scoring. Learning how to make a virtual a business boring. Showing up every morning, ready for the show. I'ma get ready. Cold engaging virtual meetings 2.0.
All right, this is John Chen with Engaging Virtual Meeting Podcast. Welcome to another episode. Well, today I'm calling in from Wichita, Kansas. And I have a funny story about how I got here. I had a client that signed a program for September 22nd. And while I was flying home, good thing I was friends with her because she started texting me and I had the free texting on the airplane. And I started getting messages going, "Oh, John, I'm so glad I'm going to be able to see you." And I'm like, "Oh, me too." And she goes, "When are you going to fly in?" And I said, "I don't know. I'm talking to your team on Monday." And she goes, "Isn't that kind of close?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And she goes, "You're scheduled to be here September 18th." And so did I earn my CSP? I just want to tell you how I earn my CSP every day. One, I didn't panic. Two, in under an hour on the plane, using only the free texting and the app, I had booked a flight. I was going to land at 12 noon. I was booked out on a red eye at 10 p.m. to Wichita, Kansas. And that I rescheduled all my meetings for Monday. And the best part is that this is the value of relationship, by the way, is that when I called her, when I hit the ground, we in 12 minutes had everything settled so that neither one of us had to worry. We were going to make it. We're going to make this program. So anyways, that's how I'm here in Wichita, Kansas. By the way, if you are on social media, comment, like, share, and we love to put you here and listen to you while we are broadcasting this live. In addition, my conference is coming up. The Engaging Conference is coming up October 1, 2, and 3. And we are featured 3 Hall of Fame speakers. When you come in person too, you will also get 5 minutes of 4-camera video, especially for your speakers, and you should come here to see how Hall of Fame speakers handle hybrid. Now, let's get on with the show. Today, I've got such a special guest. She's the immediate past president for the National Speakers Association in Northern California. She's an international speaker, facilitator, and the author of the best-selling book, Work Your Ass. That's off. Stop working so hard in business and in life. Allison guides business owners, executives, and their teams in the areas of leadership and interpersonal communication. Let's please welcome to the show, Allison Tabor. Allison, how are you doing?
Hey, John. All great. Thank you. I don't think I've ever been introduced with such a pause on the title of assets before. That was a cliffhanger. Thank you.
There you go. Like, right, we know our other friend, right, Deborah Gardner, who's got naked negotiating. So those are 2 kind of like slightly risque titles, but I thought you'd enjoy the alliteration.
Thanks, John.
Oh my gosh, so fantastic. How are you doing today? Tell me something great that's happened since I last saw you, because I saw you recently. It was so great.
Oh, so many good things have happened. It's amazing how fast how fast time flies. But first, I would just say I really love seeing you at NSA. There was another side to you that I didn't get to see before, is with your DJ mode, where we had this music jam. It's not only was it so fun for all the learning and the connecting at NSA, but to have such a good time with the talent that came out with all the musicians. That was super fun. So yeah, I didn't realize you were like a closet DJ. So that was very cool.
Well, Allison's referring to something called, we're going to shout out to Alan Berg, has led the music jam at NSA's conference called Influence. And it's after the last celebration. It's the kind of last party of the night. And basically, they have live instruments, right? We also have some karaoke set up on a computer. And musicians come out and wow, yeah, we had like, was it Linda Rose, who's like this famous blues singer and guitarist. We had yeah, Alan Berg plays keyboards. All of it was fantastic and so much talent in a National Speakers Association, right, Allison?
Definitely. It was a great time. So.
All right, well, let's do this. For my friends who don't know you, why don't you take a moment and introduce who Allison is and is, and what do you do? Thanks, Allison.
So I help business owners, leaders, and their teams work their assets off and stop working so hard in business and in life. And how I share this level of guidance is mostly through workshops, retreats, and from the platform of speaking. And I actually come from a background of being a business owner who wasn't working her assets off. I was working the latter, right? And so I will say that I haven't worked in corporate in my entire life, so that makes me a little different. So it might be interesting to to your listeners that I really come from a place of being a business owner and changing my role as a business owner. I used to own a structural engineering business for 23 years, and I ran that company as the CEO with my husband and did that for 23 years. So a lot of what I learned the hard way, where I was really working super hard. And yes, it was successful. The business was successful on many levels, but I was completely exhausted and really not aligned to the things that really energized me. So I'd say I was on the path to burnout. And it was in my recreation of my 2.0 that I decided that there were things I loved about the business, but I needed to change it up. So I changed it up probably 2 or 3 times over my 23 years. And then ultimately I decided that, I wanted to go out and into the world and help other business owners to grow their businesses in a way that actually was energizing and inspiring and rewarding for them, not just have the business run them. And so that's really where I ended up on this path to working my assets off and doing what I do today and helping others to do the same.
That's fantastic, Allison. Thank you so much. And I was a member of Entrepreneurs Organization, also did a lot of work for YPO. And what did you see change now? Now it's 2024. Like, what's the most common challenge or things that you're hearing from business owners? Side note, one of the top Chinese banquet restaurants called China Harbor yesterday just announced they're going to close after like 30 plus years. And this is like this restaurant has been the center of like 200 weddings, political, like when Bruce Harrell won the mayorship, he had a like a 400-person party in this place because he's half black and half Asian. And so this landmark is going to disappear. So I'm just, like I said, I'm curious to see, what are you seeing in your landscape for the business owners you're talking to?
Well, it's really interesting because I'm very fortunate in the fact that I have three peer advisory groups that I facilitate. So I have access to some extraordinary women CEO. It's actually for the Women Presidents Organization, which is WPO.
Yeah.
And these women are running businesses from a million to 100 plus million annual revenues. And one of the things that I will say that that I see as a common theme, no matter whether they're manufacturing widgets, designing widgets, making widgets, selling widgets. It doesn't really matter what industry they're in and what geography they're serving in or who their audience is. There are some fundamental things they face. And one has to do with people, right? It's like managing the people part is realizing that as they grow and evolve, their leadership team needs to grow and evolve. So one thing that they face is their own reinvention as leaders and the reinvention of their leadership team. So not being stale. It's not like a one and done. Okay, I'm going to grow my business, get these amazing people on my team, and yay, I move on to the next thing. No, so I'd say the biggest thing to say is the evolutionary nature of people, their own evolution and their own growth. We've heard a lot around being, pivoting and being flexible, but it's more than just, a term that's being tossed around. It's real. Like if you are a person who has a hard time reevaluating and reshifting to where the market is going and adapting. If you have a hard time adapting, then you're going to have hard time succeeding. So the CEOs today, the business owners today recognize the need for speed at making changes, adapting their technology, adapting their approach, adapting their people, growing and developing their people on their team, bringing new people on the team that are better, smarter, and more skilled than them. That they're very open to that. They don't want to be the smartest person in the room. So those are some of the things, and then of course, it's always managing growth, right? Managing growth in a smart way. You don't want to overextend and outgrow your available capital. So it's people, money, and processes. I think are sort of the three pillars that business owners of all sizes, all industries are facing.
PMP. There you go. There's your acronym for the day.
Yeah.
People, money, processes. All right, well, let's talk about your own quote unquote pivot. I know we don't like saying, I don't like personally saying the pivot word, but it still refers to a time that I think we all remember. So, you teach people change, right?
Yeah.
And all of us had to reteach ourselves going, what do we actually know about change? So I'm curious, Allison, go back to March of 2020 and tell me what happened for you and what's something that got you through it.
Well, when the pandemic first appeared on the scene, I asked myself a question. I said, wow, I don't know whether it was just my intuition or whether it was just being strategic in my thinking or a little bit of both. But I thought, what if this is not short term? What if this is going to stick around longer than we all would want, or expect? What would I do? And I came up with two thoughts. I said, one, I would learn to really be proficient in the virtual space, and I would invest in Zoom. So those are the two ideas that popped in my head. And I did
Indoor
both.
plumbing, it's going to be
I
big,
did, I
right?
did both. And Zoom's been up and down. So Zoom, it's like my best investment, even more than my investment in Zoom, was in myself. I'm an advanced facilitator. I've been facilitating groups for many years and many different modalities in terms of workshops and all of that. But I did not use Zoom for Teams. My Zoom access or my virtual access was for one-on-one coaching that I was having at the time. But what
Yeah.
I really needed to learn was how to bring a team into a virtual environment so that I could bring my workshops. Like I spent a lot of time teaching teams to understand and leverage DISC communication styles.
Yep. Yeah.
And I used to think, oh, I want to do this in person because I am energized or being around people in person. What I didn't expect is by really embracing the technology and integrating technology into my supporting, the business owners and their teams where they were then. We didn't have the luxury of being together. I actually discovered that I love virtual facilitation. I love guiding.
Oh,
So
whoa.
now, yes, so now that created a new problem. It's like, do I want to get on an airplane and pop over to here and there? So the good news is it allowed me to adapt to meet people where they were in a way that they can be supported because they needed that more than ever. People were in different offices from all over the world
Mm.
and they
Yeah.
craved connection.
Yeah.
They craved learning, as a group, not being in
Yeah.
silos. So that
Yeah.
was a big pivot. And John, that wasn't on my radar, I'll be honest, is you know, they say like there's a book like The Black Swan, like think about the unthinkable. I wasn't thinking about it, but when it did come, I didn't wait very long. I thought pretty quickly about what do I need to do to prepare myself and others around me to be successful if this hangs around, which, as we know, it stayed a lot longer than we thought, and it's still not entirely off,
Yeah.
radar.
Yeah, Allison, nobody put a 4+ year pandemic on their bingo card in 2020, right? But the interesting part is we did polls at the beginning of the pandemic and we said, oh, when do you think we're going to be out, right? And the 80% of people said like before the end of the year. And there was less than 3% of the people, and I was one of them, that said 3 years plus. And people thought we were insane. And then if you go back and look at the reality, it was about 3 years plus before something assembling the real world would come back around. And by having that I don't know where you have to train that, but the intuition as well as the foresight to say, I'm going to plan for this to be here a long time. If it opens up sooner, I'm better. But everyone else was like, we knew some speakers who said, just going to wait, right? And then
Yes.
they feel further and further and further behind, as opposed to people said, I gotta adapt now and figure something out. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I just think that longer time frame is some kind of practiced piece. I don't know if you see, did you see some leaders who actually had the foresight to see the far distance, or most of them see the what's immediate in front of my face?
There were definitely some leaders that were more prepared than others. There were people who were they were already meeting virtually and they had remote office
Mhm.
structure. So those that had, let's say, the remote office structures in place, they were able to hit the ground running and get ahead of the curve. For others who are really embracing we need to only meet in person, that the ramp up time, even technology, getting, everybody equipped, that took them longer. There was one other thing that came to mind, when you were saying like the pivoting part, there was another need that surfaced for these leaders. The peer advisory groups that I facilitate, there's two kinds. There's the local chapters that meet for a half a day once a month. The other group is meeting quarterly. What happened during Zoom I mean, during the pandemic and how Zoom helped us was they had a need to meet very regularly.
Mhm.
So I created happy hours. I mean, literally, we had like office hours
Yeah.
where I would have open room
Yeah.
weekly. And the
Yeah.
CEOs would come in and sometimes bearing their glasses of wine, other times their coffee, but we were just essentially just gathering to brainstorm together. So it wasn't so much what is the content, who is the speaker, what are we working on? It was more like we just need to commiserate with each other and we need to share resources like what's a PPP and how do you apply for this PPP
Right.
loan? And so technology allowed the connection not only on the team level for learnings, but also bringing CEOs together so they had a safe place to share their vulnerabilities and their concerns, and also share their learnings and their resources and their inspiration for their peers. So it was a very important part of the transition.
We had a happy hour running every Friday at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, and it was such an important part. It actually became the most psychologically safe virtual meeting of the week because people were dumping everything. All right. It was also happening. Everything was different in every state you were having, right? Something different was happening. So just checking in and kind of getting a litmus test of what's happening across the country was
Yes.
better. And also people getting an opportunity to just share. In fact, they made me run it twice a week for a period of time, and that's like
Yeah.
the peak of the pandemic. So now, one of the other things that happened, right, in my team building programs, I for years, I think it's like 28 years, I've been professing cross team collaboration.
Mm.
And I don't know if it was the pandemic or beforehand, but I believe you were part of the initial founding group for what's called the West Coast Alliance. Can you
Mm.
describe what that is and what it's done or doing?
Sure. With the NSA, the National Speakers Association, has local chapters, and I didn't create an alliance. The alliance was there. We had what's called the West Coast Alliance, where chapters along the West Coast would have a supportive program where, let's say you're in Northern California, you want to go visit Southern California, you can attend at a discounted rate. So it was meant as a member benefit, and it allowed you to have access. I can go down to Southern California, I can go up to, the Pacific Northwest, and at a reduced rate. So it was really a way to just enrich the membership value. What was different, and this came again through the ability to take advantage of virtual resources became so important during the pandemic, is I was
Yeah.
actually at a conference at Influence, and it occurred to me while I was meeting the president from the Southern California chapter. I was talking to AJ McQuarrie, and I said, AJ, I said,
Yeah.
I'm really into like leveraging, information and resources. I mean, I wrote a book, Work Your Assets Off, which is like, let's not work really hard. Let's share our resources. Are you open to that? He said, oh, absolutely. And then I started talking to a person from Oregon, and then just basically expanded the idea of how about we get together, not only for the benefit of the members, which that was already in place, but what about we get together and have a monthly West Coast Alliance leaders meeting where we connect and support each other as leaders, both for the betterment of the chapter and its members, but also for us as professionals. And I offered to lead the first meeting. I said, how about we get together? I'll lead the first one, and then let's rotate, and we could each take turns facilitating.
Yeah.
And it has legs. So it has a legacy piece. I'm very excited to see that we brought this together and collectively created so much value in our time together that we wanted it to continue, and it was going to continue in spite of us being there or not. So so today, and you, John, right? You're the current president in your area, and you are keeping the momentum and energy and benefit of this group going. And I'm sure, with your collaborative approach, you're going to bring the next leadership group in, and it's going to continue. So I feel very proud of being a part of something that has a legacy piece to it. And really, it was just born out of, let's just not make things so hard. Let's just share and let's support each other. And we've got technology that really affords us the ability to do this. We don't have to get together and meet, in person. Let's do this, virtually, and it works, and it's still working. You tell me, how's it going? I haven't been to a meeting in like 3 or 4 months now.
Well, let me share a couple wins from the West Coast Alliance. I mean, one is all of our confabs here in Seattle, in NSA Northwest, are run hybrid. So 4 times a year, we do that, and we invite guests from all over on the West Coast. And again, they can attend the virtual for only $25. That's an amazing
It's
piece. And
great.
then that they get to experience that. But let me tell you about two other wins. The second one is that NSA Oregon, Adam Bacher, came up and volunteered to shoot photographs for our last story standing competition, a
Oh,
5 minute story competition that NSA
yes.
introduced this year. Uh, but he had an agenda, and it's a great agenda, right? He came in and he gave, which I love. Shot some beautiful photographs. And then we have an optional lunch afterwards. So at the lunch, he came back in there and he goes, I'm competing in NSA's Oregon's Last Story Standing, which is on Monday. Our program is on Saturday. He goes, do you mind? Can I please share my story and get comments from you? 14 people at the table like, yeah, let's do it. So he delivers this like his 5 minute story in the restaurant that's on Mercer Island near
Oh,
Seattle. And he got all these amazing comments. And what was great is I went to Oregon because I volunteered to shoot the video for their Last Story Standing competition. And the Adam went and competed, and he used many of the things that he got at that lunch, and he won, Allison.
wow,
He won his
fantastic.
his chapter storytelling, and I think that's really cool. The second one is I want to share with this is that we've been really making a concerted effort for our good friends in Canada at CAPS BC up in Vancouver. We were invited to their summer party. We had 3 people that showed up there, and we just hung out. Beautiful backyard, amazing. Like it was all landscape. They have fun things. They've got this massive barbecue center inside of there. And so, and most importantly, for me, this is what I got is like, if you like almost know all your members, like we have 85 members, so you're getting close to like I know most of them. But here is like I met 40 new speakers.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was really, and I met right Tammy and as a oh sorry Natalie and Tanya, who are 2 brand new CSPs. Like I got to meet them before they got on stage, so I really get to know who they are. And then they reciprocated at our last meeting. 7 of them drove down from Vancouver, BC, and hit our meeting. 7, and now we got to like reciprocate back. So this is like the funnest competition you can ever have, which
Yeah,
is like I actually said too that I don't think I'm going to reintroduce monthly in-person meetings. I'd rather spend our energy going to either NSA CAPS BC or to NSA Oregon,
that's great. Yeah, and it's funny because
and because I think it's better. Yeah,
when
sorry,
you
go
were
ahead.
sharing that, there were like 2 words that popped into my head is it's community and connection, right?
Yes,
So
yes,
this is what it's all about. And there are technologies and things that can support us being in community with each other and connecting with
yeah.
each other. Because that's what we ultimately all crave, right? So the content is important, absolutely, but it's the content that's delivered in community as we connect with other people. So
And Allison, let me just share how rare this is. I've run over 4,000 team building events, right? And with top companies all around the world, not just the United States. And less than 1% of them can cross team collaborate well. This is a skill that it got worse too in the last 10 years. It any better. In fact, it got worse. Team silo, they like,
yes,
just because I put a bandana and they have a team name, they just think immediately like Allison's on the other team. I can't talk to her. That's cheating, right? Or that's, I'm going to help her out. And so getting that mindset of cross team collaboration to me is the number one thing that companies and organizations can do. So I just want to say thank you for that, right, Allison?
thank you. Yeah, and and that also
So
affects bottom line, right? Because what do a lot of businesses care about? Being profitable. Let's be honest about it. Yes, we want to have businesses that are designed to, our core values, and we want to have
yes,
collaboration, and we have to
yes,
be sustainable, right? It has to be profitable. So
yes.
cross-team collaboration that you're speaking of, that is fundamentally necessary to be a sustainable business. So it's important on so many levels.
So Allison and I both invite you, right? Mine is nsanorthwest.org. Go look at one of the meetings and come join us, whether you're an NSA member or not, right? We have We have Accelerate as our 50% discount. Of course, Allison, your website is.
NSANC.org, NSANC.org. And actually, we have an in-person gathering with Sam Horn this coming Saturday. So we're very excited about.
Ooh.
Mhm.
And to reach out, like again, I just pre-show, I was just sharing with Allison too that some of the stuff is happening is that I got invited to NSA Colorado. One of the members started having a hybrid, and it turned into a 7-city hybrid. And
Mhm.
Marty Dickinson, who I've become good friends with, came around and said, "You got to have John run this thing, otherwise it might be a disaster." And it was, I can't believe this is the first hybrid, Allison, where every speaker looked right. Do you know what I mean? They look
Yes.
and they sounded right, and
Well,
it's because yeah, we put a lot of work into it.
you reminded me that you and I was thinking when we saw each other besides influence actually in July, because I was facilitating a CEO group in your neck of the woods. And I said, hey, if you want to get together, let's plan something. And oftentimes, you can extend that offer and sometimes it just doesn't go anywhere, but
Yeah.
you're Mr. Follow through, you make things happen. So boom, here we were getting together. And not only did you show up to visit, but you brought some great people from your local chapter, and that was super fun to do. And that actually has impact. I won't share the identity, but there was a person in the group who came to me and said, hey, I'm really struggling around something that I think you might be able to help me with. Would you be willing to meet with me and spend some time? So we set up a Zoom, and there were two critical areas that she needed support in. And I really was able to make some key introductions that's I know helping her. So it's when you're in community, it's not about what you get. It's really how you can be helpful, and everything boomerangs back, right? So being of service and supporting your colleagues, it's not like what you do
Yeah.
for her is going to come back from her. I do for her, you do for me, the next person. It's just this sort of environment of just abundance, right? So just to give you an example
Mm.
of that abundance, another key thing that happened while I was there, I had a scheduled speaker for one segment of my time with my CEO ladies, and
Right.
she's okay now, but she was actually hit by a car just a few weeks before this happened, and
Oh.
so I was like, okay, what do I just replace that session? I can facilitate another module, or I could bring someone else in. Well, we had another fantastic NSA member in the area, Anna Leota. And I asked, hey, Anna, you live up there. Would you be able to, on such short notice, jump in and spend some time, with our members? And she did, and she was fantastic. And so just NSA, leaning into the NSA community, I can't say enough about how that's helped on a professional level, personal level, and how it really extends to supporting others just as humans. So I wasn't really thinking we were going to talk a lot about NSA, but really NSA is sort of one of the fabrics, of our success. So hey, it's, hey and hooray for NSA, right?
It's weaved into my fabric, and Ana Leata is one of my keynote speakers on October 1st, 2nd, and
Oh,
3rd. And let me tell you, if you don't know this fact about her, she came and talked to the API Plus NSA, the Asian Pacific Islander group that I formed. And this is a fact. I've known her for a long time. I didn't know this fact. She's been on 50 boards, and she's been president of like 28 of them, and
yes,
often the first woman president of those boards. So Ana
yeah,
Leata is a powerhouse, and you need to know her and learn
yes.
from her leadership skills. So
She's a
October
force.
1, 2, 3, and Allison, you can come virtual too. You don't have to make the trek to Seattle if you want to catch more of Anna's wisdom. Okay, speaking of Anna's wisdom and your wisdom, let's talk. Let's top your future wisdom.
Mm.
What do you think is the future of virtual and hybrid? From Allison Tabor Seat.
Yeah, I think both are here to stay. And I think being proficient and comfortable and embracing both is critical to your success. So it's okay if you prefer to be in person or if you prefer to be online, but you better be able to dance in both worlds because they're both going to be here for a long time. So I think and I'm an and girl anyway. I don't really like being, well, would you like left or right or up or down? I'm like, I'm an and, I like both. And I've learned to really appreciate the value that each brings. So it doesn't have to be concurrent. Well, I know you do a lot of like concurrent where you have the hybrid where you have a live component and a virtual. If that's not your
Yes.
thing, be able to have great live and then great virtual. So
Yeah. Yeah.
and there is a definite skill for bringing the two together, and not everybody could do that. So I know, John, you're really proficient at that, but there are people who try to bring hybrid events into being, but they're not prepared or they don't have the right setup, and people on virtual feel like they're not getting what they need, or people in person are not getting. So I will say, if it's going to be a concurrent experience, there's a different level of ability and setup to make that a home run.
So I got to give a shout out too, and I hope you get a chance if you know or met him. Rick Altman from the Bay Area runs something called the Presentation Summit, and he's collects over 150 of the top presentation designers, such as PowerPoint. And he tried for 2 years, and he produced what I thought was very, very good hybrid. But at the end of the 2 years, he did make that decision to split. And by splitting, he just said, well, the cost dropped dramatically. And the second part is that each experience, which he cares a lot about, got better. And he got his presenters to come and present twice.
Yes.
And what's interesting now is that each event draws a completely different audience. There's about a 5 or 10% you can go to, right? But I thought the crossover would be bigger. He goes, no, that it's really caters to two different audiences. So for instance, somebody who's a big fan, she calls in from Germany and she goes to the virtual because it's going to cost a lot less than buying that ticket. So that works. And so we get a lot of those type of people but the in-person again draws a different audience. So I think it's interesting to see how this is going. And I did see a research report too, Allison. Hybrid is the fastest growing meeting format this year.
Yeah, I'm not at all surprised. I just think you have to do it with intention and not think about, oh, I do virtual, I do in person, I'll just do a hybrid. No, they're like three different things. Virtual has its own considerations and in person does, and a hybrid requires the same, commitment and care and thought to it as its own, format. And I think if you do it mindfully, that you could be very successful. But if you're just kind of jumping in thinking you could just blend the two together, and no, it's not, it's that, 1 + 1 = 3. It is a third thing. It's a third entity, right?
Well, let's wrap up today, right? If you had a magic Allison Tabor wand and you could get people to remember one thing from this podcast, what's the one thing you want them to remember?
Oh, I want them to work their assets off. I want them to stop working hard in business and in life, which means align yourself to what you're interested in, what you're great at, and not try to be all things for all people and know every single thing. Hire others, barter with others, bring in other resources, but really just be you, be the best you, and have the people around you be them. Don't set people up for failure by expecting them to do 15 things and when they're only great at or interested in 3 of those things. So work your assets off, work the assets off of others that are around you, and let us all just, not work as hard and as with less gratification as some people are out there doing. It's not, you don't have to do that. That's just a choice.
Outstanding. Well, I put all the links to Allison, to her website and her LinkedIn. Check her out there. If you want to stop working your assets off, or you want to start working your assets off, I believe, right? And more importantly, right, have an easier business life, right? Make more with less effort. Make sure and contact Allison. Allison, thank you so much for being on the show today.
John, always fun to spend time with you. Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you, Allison. All right. Well, this is John Chen. We're here at the Engaging Virtual. And what's one of the really key things is look at your leadership and, what can you stop doing and what can you do smarter and better? So I think those are the key messages from Allison. I'm John Chen here on the Engaging Virtual Meeting podcast. Make sure and check out the Engaging Conference. You can go to engagingvirtualmeetings.com/CON for conference. Get a free ticket to day one, or of course, join us for all 3 days, or for the first time ever, join us in person. So thank you so much with that, and we will see you next time.
Don't we start people and keep old people? Show you got heart. Now we're playing the game and we're totally scoring. Learning how to make a virtual world of business boring. Showing up every morning, ready for the show. I'ma get ready. Gold Engaging Virtual Meetings 2.0.
Thank you.